heart of the Mediterranean, there exists a special world where bears and eagles live free among the vestiges of a distant past. It is a veritable treasure trove of biodiversity that, from the Alps to the islands facing Africa, is home to riches of inestimable value. Thousands of species of plants and animals, including the continent's fiercest predators. This is Italy. Here, among the art and the history, a wild heart beats. Two eagles. A cute sight. Powerful beaks, sharp claws and a 2-meter wingspan live in almost neighbouring territories in the heart of Italy. The golden eagle has chosen the mountains, the short-toed eagle the low, warm and sunny hills full of snakes, its prey. Two very different lifestyles have allowed them to adapt perfectly to the wild environments of the Mediterranean and become unbeatable champions in their field. A goshawk has caught a marten. It eats, looking around continuously. It won't be easy to finish the meal. There is a family of golden eagles around. They've arrived on the rock spur overlooking the still, snowy valley. The father has found what remains of the marten caught by the goshawk. A few grams of skin and bones, but it's better than nothing. A young female, despite being fully grown, continues to demand food from her father, who is smaller than she is. Her crop is full, which means that she has already eaten plenty, but this doesn't stop her bugging her parent for more. He tries to keep a slight distance. No matter how affectionate, a daughter eagle is still an eagle. The golden eagle stays here all the year round, but the other species of eagle is still far away, thousands of kilometres away from Italy, in Africa. The short-toed eagle, more simply known as the snake eagle, comes to Italy in the spring, when snakes which fear snow and ice and cold begin to wake up from their long winter lethargy. Snakes are numerous in the south of Europe, where you can find 10 different species among the rocks and bushes in the same area. Agile, stealthy and deadly, it seems that nothing and no one can threaten them. But that is only an impression, because for the short-toed eagle, hunting for snakes is a way of life. The short-toed eagle is the only European raptor that specialises in hunting snakes, which make up over 90% of its diet. Since snakes are predators, the short-toed eagle can be considered a super predator at the top of the food chain. Each family of eagle wipes out at least 1,000 snakes in the course of a single breeding season. If you put them in a row, they would measure over 1 kilometre. Snakes for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Nothing else. The body of these birds of prey and their behaviours are designed for maximum success in the hunt for snakes. With a wingspan of almost 2 metres, yellow eyes, the light frame of a glider, short-toed eagles dominate an area of 60,000 hectares, inhabited by no more than 10,000 human beings. This is the Tolfa Hill district, north of Rome, an area exploited by herds of free-ranging livestock. The forests, made up largely of oak, are still large and alternate with vast pastures where horses and cattle are bred in the wild. No human beings, just wild creatures and domestic animals living like wild ones. A 100 kilometres away from the Tolfa district, the Apennine range trespasses 2,900 metres of altitude and hosts some pairs of the bravest European eagle, the golden eagle. It differs from the short-toed eagle in the darker aspects and in its hunting skills. Golden eagles are not specialised hunters like the short-toed eagles. They can feed on a wide choice of prey, ranging from small rodents to cubs of large herbivores and carcasses. One pair has chosen to occupy a large cliff, sunbathed with evergreen holm oaks rooting among the rocks. Its hunting territory is a large piece of mountain range, from tree belt to the highest altitude pastures, which are free from snow only in the summer. The Apennine mountain is full of karst features, such as swallow holes, caves, gorges and sinkholes. The water is absorbed by the rock, which is full of fissures and runs underground. For this reason, there are very few streams and lakes. The deep canyons may carry water only once every 50 years. But this does not mean that there are not suitable nest sites. The red-billed chough is a Mediterranean member of the crow family, and perhaps has benefited from the warmer, drier conditions of recent years. For now. The golden eagles start their breeding season early, before the trees have leaves. Each pair has its own mountain, with its slopes and rocky canyons, and has several nests that it uses in rotation. As these nests are occupied by eagles that hand them down from generation to generation, they are huge, large clusters of dry branches on the rocks, often in a niche that offers some protection from the storms that blow constantly in spring, taking plants and animals by surprise. This year the couple decided to use the royal suite with an adjoining holm oak, a sturdy evergreen tree that has implanted its roots deep into the cracks of the rock and guarantees protection from the sun and wind. Now the female is ready to start egg laying. Short-toed snake eagles have spent the winter season in Western Africa. Here in the Tolfa Hills, the winter is too cold for them, and although it rarely snows, for a few months snakes disappear from circulation and the eagles would not find anything to eat. But at the beginning of March, the snowdrops have already appeared, and that means that spring is not far behind. These flowers are rather special, blooming while it is still winter, thanks to a few minutes of extra light. The only ones left are in the wettest, most shaded corners of the forest, not far from the bushes of the Mediterranean maquis. Most of the annual rainfall falls in these months and swells the streams that flow down to the Tyrrhenian Sea. The short-toed snake eagles have had a long journey to reach the mountains of Tolfa. They left Africa at the level of Gibraltar, crossed the whole of Spain and then southern France. They gather along the coast of Liguria on Monte Begua, where they are greeted by enthusiastic bird watchers who come from all over Europe to watch them pass. From that mountain overlooking the sea, on one single day in March, you can see 200 snake eagles flying out to populate not only Central Europe and Italy, but as far south as the hills of Tolfa. In mid-March, the pairs are ready to begin a reproductive adventure that will last for 7 months, during which time they will have to raise their little eagle, a single offspring, which will be as pampered and spoiled as any only child. Both golden and short-toed eagles are relatively long-lived birds and can reach as much as 50 years of age. Males and females look very similar, and you need to see them up close to spot that the female is slightly bulkier than the male. They are very loyal creatures, and pairs usually remain together for life. Most will live long enough to celebrate their silver wedding anniversary. Their connection to their nesting area is very strong. Each year they return to the site where they have nested previously. They are very jealous, and they will not tolerate intruders. Every pair of snake eagles defends a large territory of 3,000 hectares and covers the space the family needs to survive throughout the breeding season. It includes the woods where they nest and the clearings where they search for prey. A special relationship exists between the cattle, eagles, and snakes. The cows graze the saplings and shoots and prevent the trees from overrunning the grass, thereby making it a suitable habitat for many species of reptiles, and especially keeping it free of obstacles, like a shooting range, so that the eagles can spot their prey from a great height. Cows, horses, eagles and snakes are all bound by the same thread, which sometimes breaks. It is not uncommon for a mare to die in childbirth, and 1,000 small creatures make sure that nothing goes to waste. Graceful butterflies also join the feast. If there had been a couple of golden eagles in the area, they would not have missed their opportunity. A golden eagle is twice the size of a buzzard, and if it wanted, could kill it in an instant. But buzzards are aggressive raptors that won't put up with intrusions into the area around their nests. Despite the danger, it sets off in a crazy pursuit of a golden eagle. The latter is rather annoyed, but seems almost amused by the challenge. Unlike golden eagles, snake eagles avoid rocks and cliffs. They choose a large and solitary wood and build on a tree a new little nest each year, moving a few hundred meters from the position they occupied the year before. The pair changes flat each year. They have no fear of moving house. The pair makes sure that the nest is well concealed by vegetation from the earliest stages of reproduction. That is why they choose evergreen trees such as the holm oak and the cork, or a broad-leafed tree covered with ivy. It is at the top, in a dominant position, to make it easier for the large eagles to take off and land. The short-toed snake eagle only lays one egg. But it is a very large egg, as big as 2 hens' eggs. And the female must sit on it for 46 days. She does so with extreme care to avoid damaging it. The future of the species depends on this large egg with its fragile shell. The female snake eagle incubates her precious egg day and night. Consumption is minimized by enforced inactivity. So this mother snake eagle can also stand long fasts when the weather turns bad and prevent snakes from emerging from their shelters. She has to fast. In early spring, strong westerly winds can still sweep the coast. The southwesterly begins to howl, and rain clouds gather on the first line of hills, those where the snake eagles live. The sea is rough and beats against the rocks. Some creatures love this, but not the snake eagles. The temperature has dropped rapidly. The snakes are holed up in their deep shelters, and the eagles are forced to go without food. Their only hope is to catch a mole, a rabbit, or a frog. Then, finally, the storm is just a memory, and spring arrives. And this time, there is no doubt. The pastures disappear under a white veil, the flowering asphodel, a plant of the lily family. The cattle avoid it, as its leaves and stems contain a powerful poison, but there is plenty of grass to graze. The higher temperatures wake up Hermann's tortoises. These are the only land tortoises indigenous to the Italian peninsula, and are increasingly rare due to indiscriminate collectors, forest fires, and predators. A large specimen can survive the bite of a fox, but of 100 offspring, only one survives to adulthood. After hibernating for almost 6 months, the snakes are now hungry and in a hurry to mate. At this time, they come out into the open more often, and the snake eagles know it. Their reproductive cycles are perfectly synchronized with those of the reptiles to allow them to take full advantage of the greater availability of their prey. The chick is being born at this very moment. It is a ball of white down and weighs no more than 50 grams. The female never leaves it, protecting it from the sun with these soft feathers on her belly. The snake eagle has excellent hearing and seems able to pierce the camouflage canvas with its eyes. The cry of a jay, the crashing about of a cow, a careless noise, anything can put it on its guard. The hunter returns to the nest with a snake in his stomach, with only the tip of the tail dangling from his beak. It is still alive. The female grabs the snake's tail. She pulls it with all her might, but the snake does everything to avoid being extracted. It is a real tug of war, but in the end, the snake gives up. There it is. The male can now go in search of more prey. It is up to the female to feed the young one, chopping up the snake into small mouthfuls. The larger pieces she keeps for herself. In this phase, the division of labour within the family is very clear. The female looks after the chick, day and night, and the male must hunt for all of them. There are 3 mouths to feed, including his own. He must be really good to carry out this almost impossible task. But this female has chosen a good mate. After 38 days of incubation, another eagle chick is now crying. It is completely covered with white down. It is the offspring of the golden eagle pair. Sometimes their brood consists of 2, even 3 nestlings, but in this case, the pair has only 1 chick, which is guarded and fed with great care. Night falls. And in the wood of the eagles, prey and predators begin to move in a struggle for survival. High up in the tree, the snake eagle and her chick should be safe, as long as there isn't a couple of tawny owls in the area. In the middle of the night, in total darkness, an owl suddenly appears behind the snake eagle sleeping in the nest with its chick. It strikes the bird in the neck with its claws and then disappears. The attack is repeated 11 times between 11 o'clock and 2 a.m. in the morning. The eagle, completely helpless, has to suffer, unable to react. Tawny owls hate eagles, and if they could, they would not hesitate to kill a small snake eagle. But the mother eagle refuses to be intimidated. After an eventful night, a new day dawns. In the nest of the short-toed eagle, the male lands with the first snake at 9:30 a.m. It is a grass snake about 80 centimeters long. In order to defend itself, the snake emits a foul-smelling substance, but apparently the snake eagle doesn't care. Every day it takes 3, 4, sometimes up to 6 snakes to feed the chick and its parents. The female eats the larger pieces. Her daily ration consists of whatever the chick does not eat. These are medium-sized specimens, not too small. The snake eagle does not stoop so low as to kill newborn snakes and lizards. It would be too much work for a modest number of calories. As we would say, it's not worth the bother. But snake eagles also avoid snakes that are too large. An Aesculapian snake like this one, almost 2 meters long, wouldn't give in without a fight and could cause some serious problems. There are stories of snake eagles being locked in mortal combat with their prey. Only human intervention saved them from death. The snake was slowly strangling them. In this area there are 6 species of vipers and colubrids. Their appearance and their habits are different, but they have one thing in common. They are all potential prey for the snake eagle. Beginning with the rat snake, more than 70% of the eagle's prey. It is an agile and aggressive snake, a specialist in catching lizards. The eagle's second favourite item on the menu is the 4-lined snake, which can reach a fair size. Some shepherds claim to have seen 4-lined snakes 3 meters long. That may be an exaggeration, but 2 meters is not unusual among very old specimens. The young have black markings and resemble vipers, while adults are brown with 4 dark stripes on the sides. The 4-lined snake is a constrictor and kills its prey by suffocating it in its coils. This meal can easily satisfy them for 3 weeks or more. In third place is the Aesculapian snake, another skilled hunter of rodents. Finally, grass snakes, an aquatic species that moves away from the river after having deposited its eggs, at which point it becomes potential prey for eagles. And the smooth snake, a small, rare snake. Snake eagles also catch vipers, although they are not immune to their venom. They simply try not to get bitten. In some areas of the Alps and Central Europe, vipers represent 70% of the eagle's prey. Snakes have adopted a number of countermeasures to avoid short-toed eagles, choosing to lead a discreet and secret life and to hide among the rocks and bushes at the slightest sign of danger. So even the best hunter finds it very tiring and difficult to find them and catch them. Yet a family of snake eagles can get through at least 1,000 in a single season. But how do they find them? Tiny radio transmitters, the size of a ladybird, are used to follow their movements. These can transmit a signal for weeks with a small battery and a thin steel antenna. Now we are receiving the radio signal of 6 rat snakes and 2 four-line snakes living in a stone wall that separates the fields from the woods, an ideal habitat for both reptiles. These animals have proved to be quite territorial, especially the females, but males also rarely move more than 100 meters from their dens. Both sexes have been observed to be very much creatures of habit that follow a strict daily routine. In the morning they remain in the open to bask in the sun, then start to move through the dense bushes and rocks in search of prey. During the hottest part of the day, they disappear somewhere cool and shady. In the evening they again indulge in sunbathing. With the regularity of a Swiss guard, they make the rounds in their well-defined territory. Only those who are perfectly familiar with their dens and routines can spot them in the brief moments when they appear out in the open. And the short-toed eagles are the only animals which are able to do that. The space occupied by a couple of snake eagles includes the territories of a number of snakes, and it is likely that over the weeks, even years, the snake eagles learn exactly where all the snakes are in the area, all the potential prey, and where they like to sunbathe. You don't catch a snake by accident. Perhaps as it is crossing a street, you have to go looking for it in the right place at the right time, when it comes out from the shelter of the rocks and shrubs for just a few minutes to lie in the sun. Although snakes know how to camouflage themselves, snake eagles can spot them from a height of 500 meters, thanks to their extremely sharp vision and particular flying technique, hovering, or Holy Spirit, as the Italian ornithologists like to call it. Exactly like a drone, which uses a series of mechanical and electronic devices to maintain its position, even when there is a slight breeze. But the snake eagle is much better at hovering, needing neither sensors nor gyroscopes. Although it is one of the largest European birds of prey, the snake eagle is also one of the lightest, since it does not exceed 2 kilos in weight. The golden eagle, the bearded vulture and the griffon vulture are much heavier and are like bombers. The snake eagle, however, is a glider because its wing loading, the ratio between the weight and the surface of the wings, is the lowest of all. That is why it only stalls at a speed of 6 meters per second, and if there is a little headwind, this speed drops to 0 meters per second. At that point, it is immobile, like a kite held by an invisible thread. It just has to calculate the distance from its target, assess the strength and direction of the wind, and calibrate the dive. It descends slowly and accelerates only when it is a few meters from the ground, knowing full well that snakes are not in the habit of looking up into the sky. Golden eagles do not hunt snakes usually. They are able to do that, but they rely on other prey. Top of the menu is the brown hare, a large mammal which can weigh up to 4 kilos and lives in clearing and mountain pastures, seeking refuge during daylight under the cover of bushes and amyl trees. There, eagles cannot spot them, but they are able to surprise a hare feeding on grass in the twilight at sunset or sunrise. Young chamois represent an important food item in early summer, when they are small enough to be killed and transported to the nest, but old enough to move a few meters away from the patrolling females and mothers and aunts. The rock partridge is one of the golden eagle's favourite prey, but it is a very attentive bird. A lookout sets off the alarm. Enemy in sight. This pair hunts every imaginable kind of prey, but for some time has specialised in catching dormice. Dormice are nocturnal mammals that live deep in the woods. These eagles must have found a way to catch them, probably when they are on top of the trees intent on eating fruits or buds. The young eagle displays the large white spots under its wings and tail that are the paths that allow it to continue to live for a time in its parents' territory. Has grown rapidly. It is 1 month early with respect to the short-toed eagles. A snake eagle's survival depends on the number of snakes available, and that in turn depends on a delicate balance of conditions that sometimes is in danger of being broken, putting the survival of the chick and its parents at serious risk, especially in the height of summer when the temperature is very high and it hasn't rained for weeks. In the Tolfa Hills, summers are long, hot and dry, and all creatures try to survive the heat. After hunting in vain for hours, the male snake eagle now needs to rest on its perch. The young chick in the nest tries to find some shade. For snake eagles, this is the most critical period of the year. Not because of the lack of water, they hardly ever drink, but due to the disappearance of snakes. The snakes have virtually become ghosts. The radio signals still arise from the dense vegetation and rocks, but they never show themselves out in the open. It is too hot. If they stayed out in the sun for more than 10 minutes, their bodies would reach a temperature of 50 degrees, and they would die in a few moments. This chick hasn't eaten for 3 days, has lost 15% of its weight, and could die. If this happens, the couple has no chance to lay a second egg. This year's attempt at reproduction would have been a complete failure. The cows are tormented by flies and horseflies. For weeks they have been surviving on leathery, spiny plants. The horses suffer as much as the cows, perhaps even more so, because they're not able to assimilate their food as efficiently as the ruminants. The foals in particular are suffering. For these animals, survival depends on when the rains come to make the grass grow, and especially how long the springs will continue to be filled with water. Pitiless natural selection has forged animals that live completely independently, without relying on humans, but still, many will die. All that remains of them is a few bones scattered in the bushes, or a skull with enormous horns at the bottom of a ravine. No one will register the death. Finally, in the land of the Etruscans, the weather begins to change. The white clouds on the horizon grow in size, change colour, and the distant rumble of thunder can be heard. It is raining, after 3 months of drought. The rain returns vital life to plants and fills streams and springs with water. But the most important thing is that the temperature has dropped, and the reptiles emerge from the stupor into which they had sunk to resume their activities. Now their goal is to eat, to store the fat reserves they need to see them through the winter. The eagles return to serious hunting. They do not miss a strike. The young chick has survived the most critical moment of its short life. It has become as large as its parents. It has quickly regained weight and reached 2 kilograms. It has now been in the nest for 2.5 months, and the day is coming when it will begin an independent life. The young snake eagle is in its nest at the top of quite a high tree, and we can only hope that the ladder is strong enough to bear the weight of the person who has to climb up and place the radio transmitter on the young eagle. The young snake eagle has an almost 2-meter wingspan, but it allows the radio to be attached to its back with a small harness that will automatically break in a couple of years. In the middle of August, on a day of strong winds, the young snake eagle leaves the tree that has been its home for so many weeks, carrying on its back the small radio that will connect it to humans over the coming years. If everything works well, the data should come in every 2 days. It will probably begin its migration alone, without the company of other snake eagles. Who taught it how to do that? Its eyes are yellow, and even if they are not yet golden like those of the adults, it has already become a magnificent super predator, almost ready for the long migration that will take it to Africa in the Sahel region, where the borders of Mali and Niger are merely lines on a map. Most European snake eagles reach Africa without passing over Sicily and Marettimo, retracing the long migration loop that leads them to Gibraltar. Then they head south, cross Morocco, over the Atlas Mountains at a height of almost 4,000 meters above sea level. They cross the Sahara in stages of 230 kilometers per day, and in October they reach their wintering grounds in Mali, where they will remain until January. the golden eagles are still here. The winter rips the mountains of the Apennines range in central Italy in the heart of the Mediterranean. The rock partridges face the snow. They could be caught by the eagle. They are always ready to run away and use their calls to keep in touch and warn each other of danger. For now, the golden eagles and short-toed eagles live close by, but without coming into contact. However, the environmental change triggered by the greenhouse effect is changing everything. Thanks to the increasingly mild winter temperatures, snakes are beginning to colonize higher altitudes, and the short-toed snake eagle is following them, drawing dangerously close to the golden eagle. In a few years' time, sparks could begin to fly. In the heart of the Mediterranean, there exists a special world where bears and eagles live free among the vestiges of a distant past. It is a veritable treasure trove of biodiversity that, from the Alps to the islands facing Africa, is home to riches of inestimable value. Thousands of species of plants and animals, including the continent's fiercest predators. This is Italy. Here, among the art and the history, a wild heart beats. From the rocks of Valnerina in Umbria, the green heart of Italy, the Velino stream joins the Nera River. It does so spectacularly, with a fall of 165 meters. The Marmore Falls, one of the highest waterfalls in Europe, attracts visitors from all over the world. The waterfall is not only an evocative element of the Italian landscape, but also the location of an involuntarily man-made experiment in biological evolution, one that has now got out of control. The invasion of the river Tiber by the killer crayfish. Many biologists study this phenomenon. All fishermen are worried about it, but very few people know that the invasion of killer crayfish is completely changing the ecological balance of freshwater lakes and streams, and in particular is causing the demographic boom of fishing water birds which nest on the banks of the Tiber. Killer crayfish are alien creatures, They do not belong to the indigenous fauna of Italy and Europe. Birds do not care about that. They have just learnt the art of crayfishing to survive. The water of the Marmore Falls begins its journey in the Apennine mountains, when the warmth of early spring melts the snow and feeds the Velino River. This is the habitat of the dipper. The water is freezing cold, but the dipper is very busy. It is looking for caddisflies, aquatic insects that live among the rocks on the riverbed and try to protect themselves inside a case of pebbles. But the dipper knows how to flush them out, and especially how to locate them, even without the help of a mask. It dives courageously, its dense, waterproof feathers keeping it warm and dry, even when the temperature reaches 0. This pair of dippers' nest is in a small, mossy cradle attached to a rock overhanging a small waterfall. It is a place safe from any terrestrial or airborne predator. Just upstream from the waterfall, the river water is used to fill large tanks where American trout and crayfish are grown for human consumption. They are continually supplied with cold, clean, oxygenated water, which then returns to flow freely along the riverbed. But now that water is not quite as clean, and above all, has some new inhabitants. A system of nets is supposed to prevent fish and crayfish from ending up in the water. It works most of the time, but not always. Some crayfish manage to escape and establish themselves in the river. Having flowed through Rieti, it flows across a vast plain, once full of lakes and marshes formed by its recurrent floods. The ancient Romans, always looking for land to conquer and exploit, came up with the idea of cutting through the mountain and sending the water of the Velino River below into the Tiber through its tributary, the Nera. The stuff of science fiction? Not at all. The ancient Romans often performed considerable feats of engineering, and this particular one was completed in 271 BC. 50 cubic meters of water tumbled in 3 cascades into the valley of the river Nera near Terni. The waters are home to some crayfish that have brilliantly handled the 165-meter plunge thanks to their protective shells. A little further down the falls, the Nera completes its mission to feed the Tiber. The Tiber is the 3rd longest river in Italy. It rises in the northern Apennines and flows for about 400 kilometers through Tuscany, Umbria and Lazio. The river flows slowly through a thick forest of willows, poplars and alders. and a thin strip of trees and shrubs along the banks, because the rest is cultivated fields. The environment has been much altered, crossed as it is by the highway, but it is no less rich in wildlife for that. Hunting has been banned for years, and the animals have understood this. The deer that usually take refuge in the dense woods of the hills descend into fields on the banks of the river as far as the hedges and trees growing on the shore. A dam stops the flow and gives rise to one of the largest artificial lakes in Italy, Lake Alviano. Unlike many other basins created for hydroelectric purposes, Lake Alviano is shallow, has gently sloping banks and is relatively wide, making it a mini Amazon in the heart of Italy. For the crayfish that survived the 165-metre plunge, this is paradise. The crayfish feel as if they have returned to the swamps of Louisiana and Florida, where their ancestors were caught before being imported into Europe half a century ago. In the muddy bottoms of the puddles, they can hide and look for food. It is a much more favourable environment than the rapid Velino River, where they had to fight against a swirling current. The fog gradually recedes over the expanse of waters and reeds. The birds seem to pierce the dense mantle with their calls. The ducks begin courting, showing off their beautiful plumage. The Garganets still have a long way to go, but in the meantime, the males fight for the favours of the females. These little ducks migrate all the way from West Africa as far as Mongolia and Siberia, and on their way they stop briefly in the Tiber Valley. They are in a hurry and don't want to waste a minute. If they can get married en route and arrive at their destination as a couple, why waste the opportunity? A pair of shelducks woo each other. They don't need to migrate, they will stay here to nest. They are elegant, but rather aggressive creatures. The males will not tolerate other ducks, even small Garganets. Among the herons, the first to nest are the grey herons. The snow has not yet melted on the Apennine mountains, and there is still no sign of leaves on the trees. The colony is already established, and various couples are engaged in the early stages of reproduction. First, they have to occupy a good fork in a tree. Then restore last year's nest or build a new one. herons' nests are 10 metres up, impossible for a terrestrial predator to reach. The male reaches it via a long branch, but it is up to the female to arrange the nest. The couple greet each other formally. They are armed with sharp, powerful beaks, so it is always advisable to take the time for a reconciliation ceremony. Nearby, another female is hatching her eggs. She doesn't move, checking out what is happening around her. For over a month, she will be sitting on the eggs during the day, getting her companion to take her place occasionally. The couple is now beginning its reproductive adventure with a carefully balanced acrobatic mating among the branches. The forest is still bare, but at the top there are gems. Small moths swarm around the first leaves. These are green longhorn. The males with their very long antennae are looking for females. The black kites have returned to the shores of the lake. They have spent the winter in Africa, south of the Sahara, and crossed the desert and the sea to get here. They are light, with long, broad wings, and can glide effortlessly, brushing by each other as they mark out the borders of their nesting area in the woods overlooking the lake shore. Now the couple starts their courtship in the poplars. A storm of what look like soft snowflakes floats through the air. The poplar seeds drift lightly on the wind, thanks to their parachutes. The penduline tit has taken advantage of it to build its soft hanging nest, a small masterpiece made of poplar fluff. Other fishing birds appear in the heron colony. Cormorants have webbed feet and move rather awkwardly among the branches. Their landing must be measured so that they can get airborne as close as possible to the nest. Once, cormorants were seen only in the winter, but in the last few years pairs have started sharing the trees with the herons. Cormorants are hot. They disperse heat by vibrating the bare skin on their throats. Around their nest tree, sparrows are busily searching for a small room suitable for their housing needs. From the top of the trees falls a continuous rain of guano, a concentrate of natural chemical compounds that fertilizes the water and the soil, encouraging an explosion of life that has its roots in the fertile silt on the ground. It is a thin, clay-like mud collected from the river and its tributaries in the hills along its course. Many of the small animals that thrive in these waters function as delicate filters, like freshwater mussels. Mayfly larvae use special appendages to direct a stream of water full of organic particles towards their mouths. The juvenile form of caddisflies live in a case made of pebbles, cemented together by the mucus secreted by these small creatures. With their soft and defenceless bodies, this is their only hope of remaining safe. These pools contain thousands of mosquito larvae, but few will become adult mosquitoes, because if there is one creature that is helpless and enjoyed by aquatic predators, it is the mosquito larva. If the larvae are disturbed, they move jerkily with serpentine movements and immediately push themselves downwards to reach deeper, safer water. At least, sometimes safer water. At the bottom of the pond is one of their deadliest enemies, lurking in their larval phase, the juvenile form, or nymph, of a dragonfly. A creature so well camouflaged it resembles organic debris. The dragonfly nymph moves very slowly and waits for its prey to come within striking distance of its buccal apparatus, which shoots forward like a net to capture and grip the victim, which has no chance to escape. Other predators operate on the surface. Very skilled at living where water and air meet are the boatmen, from the order Hemiptera, which also includes cicadas and green vegetable bugs. Like cicadas, they too have a buccal apparatus made to suck liquids, but in their case it is not the sap of the trees, but the vital fluids of a victim. Boatmen inject a cocktail of enzymes into the body of their prey, turning it into a milkshake ready to be sipped with a straw. The crayfish are literally swimming in a soup of potential food. Living or decomposing matter, of animal or vegetable origin, anything can satisfy their insatiable appetites. And armed with strong claws, killer crayfish can live as long as 10 or 12 years, much more than many other creatures with fewer defenses. A group of egrets has found where the newts have come to reproduce, and where the larvae of these amphibians begin to develop like small fish with legs. They always try to hide in the aquatic vegetation. They weigh just half a gram, but are so easy to catch that the little egrets make the effort. Many cannot escape the birds' acute eyes and sharp beaks. A real massacre. The little egrets keep their distances. Each specimen occupies and defends a small fishing or rather hunting ground. The denser aquatic vegetation helps the newts to hide, but the little egrets have found a way to flush them out. They move the plants and the mud with their feet, uncovering the last unlucky newts that have sought refuge on the riverbed. Of 1,000 tritons, perhaps 10 will survive, the minimum needed to ensure the continuation of the species in the year to come. the water lily flowers begin to come out. Each water lily leaf is a two-sided ecosystem. The top serves as a resting point for dragonflies. Underneath, encrusted with microscopic algae, the large round surface accommodates aquatic snails and flatworms. Flatworms are organisms of great biological and evolutionary interest for their ability to regenerate. Crested grebes have adopted their most elegant plumage, with tufts of feathers on their heads and a colourful collar that expands onto their cheeks. The couple renews its bond with the penguin dance, so called for the upright position taken by the two dancers. They approach each other and offer aquatic plants that will be used to build the nest. Then they ceremoniously shake their heads to show off their collars. The reeds protect the broods of waterfowl, keeping them safe from predators on the land. No fox can go deep into the water to reach the coot's raft or raid a brood of small hens. The masses of insect cocoons open up, aquatic in the larva state and aerial when adults. The buzz of millions of wings becomes as strong as the roar of a distant plane. Chironomids, tiny mosquito-like lake flies, although fortunately not bloodsuckers, swarm en masse at sunset. They form clouds where males and females meet to mate, a real boon for insectivorous birds that have synchronized their reproductive activities with this explosion of flying plankton. A pair of reed warblers builds a nest suspended among the reeds. They have arrived after a very long flight. They come from tropical Africa. Twilight does not slow the pace of activity of birds that have just a few weeks to breed this season. Fishing conditions are good even when the light decreases, because the fish approach the surface and do not notice the silhouette of a heron in the advancing darkness. Jackdaws, on the other hand, love light and so go to sleep on their safe perches. The water, carried by the river, fed by the snow that melts in the mountains, has submerged the base of the trees and created a maze. Herons have established their colony in its innermost, inaccessible heart. A few years ago, this forest was almost silent, and there was not even one couple with a nest. Today, there are thousands of them. Only those with webbed feet or long, stilt-like legs can move here. Many other species have joined the grey herons, and the city of birds is a lively place. The nests are distributed in apparently chaotic fashion, but in fact follow very precise rules to try to ensure a relatively peaceful coexistence. It's like a large condominium inhabited by quarrelsome tenants. The cormorants live on the upper floors, while the grey herons are right up in the attic. The spoonbills occupy the ground floor. They move awkwardly on the branches and prefer to stay low, where a fall would be less disastrous. Some youngsters have left the nest and are squabbling while waiting for their parents to arrive with dinner. Thanks to the many numbered rings on their legs, put there by ornithologists in various European colonies, it has been possible to reconstruct the journey that led them to settle on the banks of the Tiber. This specimen carries a Hungarian passport. Dozens of pairs of cattle egrets and small egrets fight for the possession of the best branches on which to breed. Each time they return to the nest with a crop full of food, the parents risk losing an eye or being badly injured. Such is the greed of the hungry chicks waiting for them in the treetops. Eating is a matter of life or death for the baby egrets and the growing little egrets, and siblings fight with no holds barred 20 metres up in the air. Some end up in the water, but here there are no piranhas or crocodiles. Gradually, the little heron can reach the shore and get dry. This is when they need the most food. Each chick consumes as much as an adult, if not more, and because each brood is composed on average of 3 chicks, the impact is multiplied. A hungry population has an impact on the resources offered by the waters, the reeds, the expanses of water lilies and Potamageton. Tons of fish, invertebrates, frogs and other aquatic animals end up in the capacious stomachs of an army of fishermen. Each has a particular fishing technique, a restricted catch area and a specific prey. The egrets have found a school of small fish just below the embankment of the dam. They fight to get the best position. Some prefer to fish in solitude. There is too much confusion near the dam. This one has found a small frog among the leaves of the Potamageton. In spite of their rather cumbersome beaks, spoonbills are very good at eating small and medium-sized fish. Some crayfish can end up amongst them. The squawko heron is solitary by nature. Approaching cautiously, it will only strike if it is sure not to fail. Pygmy cormorants fish in the shallow waters among the vegetation. They look underwater, searching for crayfish, their favourite prey, which hide very well in the mud and among the plants. Night herons go fishing at night and spend the daylight hours almost motionless on the branches of the tree or in the water. cattle egrets are hunting for earthworms in a swampy meadow. Unlike larger herons, these show a marked preference for invertebrates, as do black-winged stilts, relatives of snipes. Thanks to their long legs, they can go into the high water to capture anything that moves between the aquatic plants. Black-winged stilts lay their eggs in a small pile of plants and mud directly on the ground. They are exposed to many risks, but they vigorously and loudly defend the airspace around their nests. Laterinos are small fish weighing a few grams, but 10 laterinos make almost 1 ounce, and 50 laterinos make the average daily ration of a cormorant. The cormorants fish in groups, pushing the shoals of the fish to the bottom, trapping them between the banks and the open water with their bodies. Solemn, on the top of a pole, an osprey consumes its prey. Now it cleans it calmly, hoping that no crow or seagull will bother it. Everyone, big and small, goes fishing. A kingfisher has timed its dive perfectly. Although tiny, this bird is perhaps the most skillful of fishermen. Out of 100 attempts, it misses no more than 10. Once inhabited by pike, perch, carp and eel, the Tiber and Lake Alviano were once the fishing grounds of families of fishermen who had the opportunity to catch fish of some value that were very popular in the city. Then, at the end of the last century, the ecological balance was destroyed because the river and the lake were invaded by exotic fish, true aliens, imported to meet the demands of fishermen without the slightest concern about what might happen. The indigenous species have disappeared, thanks to the alien species, and because they are of no commercial interest, no one catches them anymore. In the lake, as well as native species like the increasingly rare eels swimming upstream, there are at least 10 species of exotic fish, ranging from American pumpkin seeds to Asian carp, which now represent the heart of the local fishing industry. Large koi carp, with their incongruous reddish-orange colouring, swim alongside American terrapins. American terrapins are now common. They are very good swimmers and emerge from the water only to sun themselves. Whoever once kept them in small tanks at home had no idea how big they could grow. A grey heron is peering through the reeds. It has spotted something interesting. It has caught a catfish, an American species. Another hit. The egret has caught a Crusian carp, a relative of the goldfish. This time, a Chinese species. a little grebe emerges with a mosquito fish in its beak, a small fish of North American origin. The alien fish have increased dramatically and have become the food of herons, cormorants and spoonbills. But the demographic boom of these birds is thanks mainly to the American crayfish, the ancestors of those that survived the plunge from the Marmore Falls. This family of grebes has specialised in hunting killer crayfish. This one is a bit too big, and the chicks have some problems eating it. The alien crustacean that has invaded the rivers and lakes of Europe has found something able to keep it at bay. The crayfish are the staple on the menu for each species. Even a lonely, sacred ibis has arrived from who knows where to eat crayfish. The killer crayfish have now turned into prey. They provide 90% of the food in this ecosystem, now modified by the presence of exotic species, fish, turtles, but also koipu. Even the vegetation is affected by the new tenants. Once there was a risk that the reeds would become too dense, but now there are those who diligently eat the reeds and the buds of any plant. Reeds are to koipu as bamboo is to pandas. A rich population of koipu is now firmly established on the shores of Lake Alviano. Koipu are American citizens with long-term residence permits. They are rodents vaguely similar to a large rat or beaver and come from South America. They would have been happy to stay there, but in the last century they were imported into Europe to provide fur. Some of the more fortunate have managed to escape and now hide on the banks of rivers and lakes, leading a clandestine existence. Now that koipu fur is no longer fashionable, they can set foot outside and devote themselves to their families and to their favourite activities without fear of being turned into a jacket. Koipu reproduce rapidly, and today there are millions across Europe. They are beginning to have an effect, destroying aquatic vegetation, eating crops and digging deep burrows that undermine the banks of lakes and rivers. Strictly vegetarian, koipu usually do not interfere with birds, but they are so stout that they could destroy nests just in passing. Females can give birth to litters of as many as 10 or 12 young, but usually they are smaller, and they treat them with great care and attention. Mother and child share moments of great tenderness. Who said rats, even giant ones, cannot be affectionate? A spontaneous experiment is taking place in the river Tiber, and in particular in the Lake Alviano. The lake is a globalized ecosystem, an anticipation of what could be the future of many environments around the world, which have been gradually conquered by a handful of adaptable and intrusive alien species that hunt indigenous species but also cohabit with them, establishing a new and complex network of ecological links. A great evolutionary laboratory that tests, with mixed results, whether native and alien species from distant parts of the globe introduced deliberately or accidentally by men can coexist and integrate. In this great experiment of globalized biodiversity, although the actors have changed, the law is always the same: eat or be eaten. The only great unknown factor for these exotic organisms is their ability to adapt to the climate, which, although milder, exposes them to temperatures much lower than those to which they were accustomed in their native regions. Flocks of cormorants invade the lake, adding to the residents who are suddenly overwhelmed by northern migratory birds. A flock of cormorants operates as a closely knit team. They have decided to fish in a body of water. Who knows which individual made this decision, but it was done so decisively that others have followed, and the group has grown. They start from one end, moving as a unit towards the opposite bank. They dive and emerge with almost perfect synchronization. Their sharp, hooked beaks catch fish that cannot escape. Winter. In Lake Alviano, many of the herons, such as the night herons, the squarco herons, the purple herons, and most of the little egrets, have departed for warmer climes. On the other hand, the population of great egrets, stately hunters operating in the high waters but also sometimes on land, has increased tenfold. It has snowed, and the lake is covered in a thin slab of ice. There is not a sign of frogs or tortoises. The bittern chooses this season and the last hours of daylight to go fishing for crayfish. It searches carefully in every corner of the bank. The crayfish and other exotic species that have invaded the Tiber fear the cold. They come from tropical climates and have no experience of snow, let alone ice. So every year they face winter by hiding in the mud and in the earth. Yet they are destined to overcome this environmental challenge thanks to ongoing climate change. Winter temperatures are now milder. Cold and snowy winters are rare, and ice only lasts a few days. The descendants of the koipu and crayfish have been increasingly selected to withstand moderate waves of frost, and so you can be sure that the Tiber and its lake will look more and more like a tropical waterway, and killer crayfish and American turtles will no longer struggle to survive. We need to prepare for a future of cohabitation with the aliens. The river of the ancient Romans has taught us that a new coexistence is possible.